Oh, they're so cute. Adorable. How's it going, everyone? In 1993, Jurassic Park hit theaters and was lauded with accolades from moviegoers and critics alike. By 1994, it had been released on pay-per-view. It was on a moonless summer night while clinging to my mom and dad that a 5-year-old me was all at once entranced and terrified while the three of us sat watching T-Rexes, Raptors, and Brachiosauruses, long necks, run rampant through John Hammond's park. I've got to confess, the effects have held up well. About 4 years later, I saw Jurassic Park's sequel, The Lost World. We rented it from a local gas station that also sold fishing and tackle. Yes, I said it, fishing, tackle, and videos. Welcome to the rural South circa 1998. And while I know it was not critically received as well as the first Jurassic Park movie, I think it still has its merits. We'll get to this one later. What's interesting about The Lost World Jurassic Park is that for anyone who has read the original Jurassic Park novels, the opening attack on Kathy Bowman was actually taken from a scene in the first book. In the movie The Lost World, however, the Bowman family decides to anchor their yacht on a private island for a little sun and prawn snacking.
Prawn's your favorite.
After wandering off, Kathy finds herself surrounded by what looks like dozens of upright lizards. Perhaps because of her vulnerability, or maybe they don't like prawns either, they attack. This incident prompts John Hammond to put together a team of expeditioners to go visit Site B. Site B is the production facility that was responsible for creating viable embryos for the Isla Nublar facility seen in the first movie. Located in a chain of 5 islands ominously called the Five Deaths, Isla Sorna is home to InGen's dirty secret. Hammond wants to see what kinds of changes and adaptations have taken place in the creatures since their abandonment. Ian and the others in the expedition find themselves racing against time as Hammond's nephew has secured the go-ahead from InGen to send in teams of mercenaries to steal and exploit the animals. The only one who's remotely likable in the whole InGen team is this fellow right here whose name is Roland Timbo. I'd trust this guy with my life. He's like Robert Molden Part 2. What the two teams don't initially realize is that the situation is just as unpredictable here as a result of human interference as it was on the original island. You can't just throw people and dinosaurs together. Isn't that right, Chris Pratt? After disasters beset both teams, they have to band together in order to survive. Nick Van Owen is a moron, thank you very much, and ought to be hobbled and left for the the Compys to nibble on. John Hammond's nephew, who is spearheading this operation, has a grand scheme that relies on bringing back a live T-Rex. I'll be honest, I think it would be awesome to see a miniseries based off the original Lost World Jurassic Park book that delves a little deeper into Malcolm's trauma. It would also be great to see some of the commentary from Crichton's book about not just human life, but all life and its consequential demise, presented in a format more well suited for it. But I doubt we'll ever get any kind of Jurassic Park miniseries. Welcome to Firearms in Film, a series where we take a look at firearms throughout cinematic history. It's part film analysis, part commentary, and part nostalgia. From Landstrat air rifle mock-ups to custom double-barreled rifles, here are the top 5 firearms in The Lost World Jurassic Park. There are guns for shooting, guns for collecting, and then there are firearms whose construction and craftsmanship are works of metallurgical art. Roland Timbo's Cersei & Company's double-barreled rifle chambered in 6 double-aught Nitro Express undeniably falls into the third category. While at first glance it looks like some kind of shotgun, the barrels of guns of this type are rifled and made to fire slugs. They're also built to such exacting tolerances that replacement parts must be handmade for a majority of their components, as each rifle is made alongside its internals. This results in an unrivaled fit and finish that it's almost impossible to find in mass-produced firearms. There are several different manufacturers who produce these double-barreled rifles, although considering the time, effort, and detail that goes into these guns, I'm not sure if they should be sullied by the appellation of manufacturer. Custom gunsmithing houses, maybe? Still doesn't sound fancy enough. At any rate, this Circean Company's 600 Nitro Express is Roland's weapon of choice for his attempt at bagging a male T-Rex. I personally think that a T-Rex throw rug would be pretty awesome. It's unfortunate that Nick Van Owen, Mr. Fancy Greenpeace Pants, took out the slugs for the double-barreled rifle, as it allowed the engine team to tranquilize the T-Rex and bring it back as opposed to killing it. Unlike many of the firearms covered in this series, double-barreled rifles historically have no military significance or heritage and are strictly used for sporting purposes, particularly for large safari game where knockdown power is of the utmost importance against a charging, enraged 6-ton animal. Interesting to note is that double-barreled rifles traditionally and contemporaneously use what's called a box lock action, in which the closing of the rifle breech is what cocks the firearms. The 600 Nitro Express refers to the cartridge that Roland's rifle fires. The Nitro Express family of cartridges were developed from a desire by manufacturers to load shell casings that had traditionally been packed with more crude forms of gunpowder with a more potent substitute, cordite. These cartridges were also intended solely as a big game hunting cartridge, as opposed to many firearms today which often utilize rounds originally developed for military purposes. The Nitro Express is not something you pick up in your local sporting goods store. Holland & Holland, a premium manufacturer of firearms for sporting purposes, estimates that there have been only about 100 rifles ever made that are chambered in the 600 Nitro Express. Each round costs about $40. For you squirrel hunters, that's about 2 bricks of Remington Thunderbolts. At 7,600 foot-pounds of energy, the custom bullets and the guns that fire them are usually regarded as some of the most high-end hunting implements in the world. If the Engine Hunters had utilized this gun in its original configuration to shoot dinosaurs, we might have gotten something like this. If a gun like the Lar Grizzly Big Bore is good enough for Burt Gummer, it's good enough for me. And yeah, it's spelled like boar. Most unusual about the LAR rifles that are used in the Lost World Jurassic Park, however, is that they are all mocked up to be CO2-powered tranquilizer rifles. In the book, Eddie Carr's character explains that they are carrying Lindstrat
air rifle.
He erroneously tells the team in both the book and the movie that the toxin inside the darts contains
With the enhanced venom of Conus purpuracid, South Sea cone shell. Most powerful neurotoxin in the world acts within a 2,000th of a second, which is faster than the nerve conduction velocity. So the animal's down before it even feels the prick of the dart.
Is there an antidote?
What do you mean, like if you shot yourself in the foot? Don't do that. You'd be dead before you even realized you had an accident.
However, this is a physical impossibility, as any toxin must reach the circulatory system before it can be effective, and nerve conduction velocity outpaces the speed of the bloodstream by a wide margin. Bit of trivia, though, is that there are some neurotoxins that are nearly as fast, but not quite as fast as the nerve conduction velocity. But we're not counting goofs here, so what does it matter? Aha! Conduction velocity of nerve impulses can vary from individual to nerve type and is generally within the range of 60 meters per second. We first see the LAR Grizzly Big Bore in its tranquilizer gun configuration as the Engine Hunters scatter the dinosaur herds and go after the specimens. While the tranquilizer guns used in the movie have darts for their munitions, the actual LAR Grizzly Big Bore fires a .50 caliber Browning machine gun round. This round was refined by John Browning during the First World War and has seen extensive use in heavy machine guns even today. Owing to its immense muzzle energy, in the neighborhood of 14,000 pounds of force, which makes 1,400 foot-pounds of a Hot 44 Magnum load look wimpy in comparison, the .50 caliber BMG excels in penetrating through walls and light armor. Shooting a .50 caliber round is like firing a Caterpillar bulldozer at someone. They're probably not likely to survive. If you were to shoot a T-Rex broadside with one of these, it'd probably more than likely bring it down. It's the LAR Grizzly Big Bore / tranquilizer gun that is deployed to sedate the T-Rex near the end of the movie after the San Diego rampage. If you notice, the dart is loaded by removing the rear of the stock and sliding it out. In reality, the .50 caliber round is loaded in this exact same manner, minus the half tube that the dart rests in. Kind of interesting that a rifle chambered in one of the most lethal rounds in use today is being presented as a less than lethal tranquilizer gun. What interests me is the fact that Sarah Harding states that they use carfentanil as a sedative of choice for the T-Rex. Less than 2 milligrams of this sedative is enough to actually kill the average adult human being. So maybe the tranquilizer gun isn't as non-lethal as we thought it was. While not technically a firearm, the Dan Inject Model JM is worth a mention simply because it's kinda cool looking. The company that produces the Dan Inject Model JM also produces other variants of tranquilizer guns. Dieter uses it when the engine team first storms the game trail, firing it from the seat of his one-off custom Dino Dune Buggy deal. Tranquilizer guns have traditionally utilized compressed gas to deliver a hypodermic-like dart filled with sedative to take down animals. Unlike the LAR Grizzly Big Bore portrayed as an air rifle mentioned earlier, the tranquilizer gun featured here is actually available on the market, sold through Dan Inject, which has been marketing tranquilizer guns since 1986. The Dan Inject Model JM is a robust design powered by CO2. You can see the gas cylinder just beneath the barrel and in front of the trigger guard. Tranquilizer guns like the JM often have variable pressure systems to adjust how much gas is fired whenever the trigger is pulled. This can cut down on sound at the expense of projectile speed in order to avoid startling nearby animals. Of note is the semi-bullpup design, in which the barrel length itself runs all the way back to the stock. The Dan Inject JM is single shot though, so each dart must be loaded accordingly. Although, if you're trying to rapid fire tranquilizer darts, it might be time to upgrade to heavier hardware. The maximum range for this kind of gun is around 130 meters, as anything past that, the tranquilizer dart will begin to lose too much momentum. Boasting an 11mm bore, this can be swapped out for 13mm bore should the occasion call for it. Probably the biggest problem with delivering sedatives to an animal like a genetically modified lab-cloned dinosaur is calculating the dosage needed to put the animal down without killing it or sending its system into shock. Tranquilizer guns in general have a relatively short history, having been developed sometime in the 1950s. They are an offshoot of an even older technology, the blowgun, which used good old-fashioned lung power, but their function and design have changed very little since then, with the main propulsive gas being CO2 and their main function being animal sedation. There has been experimentation with tranquilizer guns in the fields of law enforcement and military as a kind of less than lethal alternative. But, as it is with many animals, including dinosaurs, it's difficult to judge just how much of a dosage to put in the dart so that you don't kill the individual you're shooting. It also sometimes takes a while for the sedative or paralytic to take effect. Even in the wild with a proper dosage, it might take up to 45 minutes for an animal that's been shot with a tranquilizer dart to finally go down. Based off of the HKG-3, the HK-91 is the civilian version of the battle rifle that has been used by countless countries, from Colombia to Qatar. Much like the FNFAL, the HK-91 is chambered in 7.62 by 51mm and has a lineage that can be traced all the way back to the Second World War. It's also just as widespread as the FNFAL, probably owing to its roller-delayed blowback system, versatility, reliability, and availability of ammunition. The biggest difference between the HK-91 and HKG-3 is the lack of a fire selector switch on the civilian HK-91. Weighing in at around 10 pounds, it's almost double the weight of an unloaded M16 rifle. This increase in weight, however, helps with some of the recoil from the intermediate 7.62mm cartridge, which is larger than the M16's 5.56 NATO cartridge. The HK-91 has acquired a collector status among firearm enthusiasts, having been a victim of the then President's executive order which banned the importation of all non-sporting rifles. As a result, the flash suppressors, slotted cylinder-shaped devices at the end of the barrel which are used to disperse hot gases, were removed and the rifle was rebranded as the HK-SR9. An interesting fact about flash suppressors is that they are not actually designed to hide the muzzle flash from enemies, rather to keep the muzzle flash from shorter-barreled weapons from blinding the shooter during nighttime conditions. Dieter's HK-91 is topped with an optic, and he is last seen with it stumbling around in the forest before rolling down an embankment and losing it. He's beset by a multitude of Compys who chase him down and gnaw him to death. I imagine this is probably somewhere between Execution by Paper Cut and Kitten Snuggles. Them Compys hold a grudge and they don't play around, yo. In the script, Ajay and Roland's working relationship was more fleshed out. African big game hunters like Roland Timbo would often bring gun bearers along with them on their hunts. Since many double-barreled rifles in the early days of big game hunting fired only 2 shots, it was the responsibility of the gun bearer to relay guns to the hunter. AJ probably served a similar role, but his primary job is to track for Roland. In one of the earlier movie script drafts, the camaraderie between Roland and Ajay is more defined, and there are several key scenes that showcase Ajay's tracking abilities. For example, it's Ajay who spots the T-Rex tracks not far from the game trail that led back to the nest. While Roland carries a Cersei & Company custom double-barreled rifle, Ajay has chosen a more modern sporting rifle for his own firearm. The long gun in question is the Winchester Model 70. Due to its variability in game cartridge loadings, the Winchester Model 70 has been favored by sports shooters and hunters since its introduction in 1936. Drawing from the mechanics of the Mauser and Winchester Model 54 which preceded it, the Winchester Model 70 has a long legacy of outstanding performance and reliability, earning the moniker the Rifleman's Rifle. I suppose it's kind of like a man's man. Utilizing a bolt-action feeding system with an internal magazine well, the Winchester Model 70 is chambered in everything from the humble 22 to the big game 375 H&H mag. It's the kind of rifle a person would expect to see for people in a hunting reserve and serves in law enforcement in a sniper rifle capacity. It was even used for military training during the Second World War, with some sharpshooters taking it into the field with them in the Pacific. So reliable is the design, function, and accuracy of the Model 70 that Marine Corps sniper Carlos Hatcock used one to shoot a Vietnamese enemy sniper through the enemy sniper's scope. Ajay keeps the rifle shouldered for most of the movie, only removing it during the scene where he shouts, Jurassic Park as a book was originally a commentary on the awesome responsibility that we as a species have towards governing ourselves as it concerns newer and newer technologies. It's about how our ability to innovate is outpacing our common sense and morality. The book's sequel was the same way. The Lost World Jurassic Park expanded these themes to include our responsibilities towards the consequences that arise as a result of our actions. This is somewhat watered down and condensed for the films, but for good reason. It would be boring. Still though, I cling steadfastly to the belief that maybe there'll be a mini-series reboot where they'll delve a little deeper into this. I think it'd be awesome if it was set back in the time period in which the books were written, the 90s, and we could maybe see, a Tamagotchi, or a Game Boy Color. Anyway, this has been the 5th episode of Firearms and Film. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, like, subscribe, and ding the bell. Thanks so much.